Hey everyone, welcome to Strange Stories, where we explore near-death experiences and supernatural stories from people who've had a glimpse of the other side. If you enjoy our content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel. Without further ado, let's get to the story of the day. I was hospitalized to a hospital in Northern California for pancreatitis treatment in late September 2013. I lay alone in an empty hospital room, wondering if this is how my narrative ends, alone, among strangers, with no one on the other end of the phone, given that my entire family was back in East Philadelphia, a 3-hour time difference away. I was admitted to the hospital for treatment after receiving the diagnosis and a severe warning from the ER doctor that I was about to experience more pain than any human being would ordinarily experience in their entire lives. What transpired late that September night would forever ruin my reality. In my heart, I knew I was dying and that I was being summoned to pay the debt that all men must pay. But I wasn't prepared in the least. Hour after hour, I lay there in excruciating pain, the likes of which I had never imagined conceivable. My pancreas was evaporating. I was practically being eaten from the inside out. And just when I thought I couldn't take it any longer, I felt an inside shift that made me close my eyes and cringe. It surprised me, and when I opened my eyes, I couldn't see anything. My eyesight was obscured by a hazy fog, so I proceeded to scrape what felt like hardened wax from my left eye. It was like peeling a layer off an onion. Everything appeared to be clear, but my vision was blurry, and I began to hear footsteps all around me. Trying to remain calm, I hastily took the coverings off my right eye, the entire while wondering what in the world was going on. But my tummy was bursting with butterflies, warning me that something was very wrong. I got immobilized with anxiety as my vision began to clear and my surroundings came into focus, anticipating the unknown. I found myself on the outskirts of a sea of people racing around like savages, hurling various weapons at each other. Everyone had wide eyes all the way down to their pupils. I'll never forget those haunting eyes. Soulless. They had every human characteristic, but something was missing. I had about a minute as I entered this black dimension to gain my bearings and figure out what was going on. Thought-brewing questions quickly came out of my mind, questions that I did not ask aloud but were answered anyhow. As if they could read my mind, random people in the crowd would scream out answers in the distance. Of course, the first query is, what is this place? Hell. Where do you suppose you're at? Asked a man in the distance, standing on a sort of balcony. This must be a dream, I thought to myself in complete amazement and disbelief. This can't be true. Laughter could be heard from a distance. Maybe I didn't want the answers, but I couldn't help but wonder what was going on. Not me. Another thought rushed through my mind as I realized the weight of the situation was starting to rest on my shoulders. Where do you think they send furious drunks when they die, stupid? Asked a broken-down man 10 feet in front of me. His remarks were patronizing, but his demeanor was firm. I was paralyzed. The most intense and frightening sort of shock I've ever experienced. Nobody was saying anything orally at the time, but they were speaking to me inside of my thoughts. I shook as I attempted to back away from the oncoming turmoil as if to say, I'm not a part of this. But there was nowhere for me to go. This godless environment was surrounded by a wall of pitch-black blackness, deeper and denser than the midnight sky. As I came closer to the darkness, I felt that my body was being repelled from it, like the same pole of two magnets meeting for the first time. It was unthinkable. I was trapped. You know how it feels to be caught doing something you know is wrong? Imagine that emotion compounded tremendously because I was receiving what I had sown for an entire lifetime. Screw me is an understatement when compared to the raw sensation coursing through my veins. I found myself in the harshest of environments, naked, empty, terrified, and vulnerable. There are no words that can express the most terrifying feeling I've ever had in a single thought. It's all over. Even now, it makes me want to vomit. Not only will I never see my loved ones again, but the God I've worshipped my entire life does not want me. My longtime belief that I was unworthy was now confirmed. And just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, it did. The interrogation was over. It was now time for me and my new pals to have some fun. Every piercing white eye turned on me in the flash of an eye, and the rowdy mass began crawling towards me in a terrifying manner. I knew it was coming, but I wasn't prepared for anything. They began the assault with random things, shoes, shirts, and the like. As I pleaded with them, they lashed me with what felt like a wet towel sting. No, please, not me. I don't deserve it. Their sly smiles and mocking laughs only added to the fear. They acted as if it were only a game to them, and this was only the beginning. They were just getting started. I was surrounded by as many people as you could fit around you at the same time and as far as the eye could see. As I fled through the crowd, I ducked and dodged, but the further I ran, the worse things became. It was like a video game. As you progressed from the first to the second level, the game became increasingly difficult. And here, wherever here is, things only get worse with each step. Shoes and clothing were transformed into sticks and clubs. The sticks and clubs were transformed into bats and pipes. The level of pain clearly rose, but it was nowhere like the pain of being hit with a bat or a pipe on Earth. I suppose it had to be that way in order for this awful game to continue. All I could do was grab whatever I could find and start punching back. It was unheard of how quickly everyone could move. They sprinted like track stars, boxed like boxers, and wielded weapons like warriors. Things are moving so quickly, and from what I could see, many of the people seemed to like what they were doing. The brutality was pure entertainment. What else could I do but defend myself and fight back? There were a lot of them, and I was the freshest meat on the market, and the vultures were picking through my carcass. It was unrelenting. In the afterlife, birds of a feather definitely flock together. I know I wouldn't be writing this right now if I hadn't stumbled upon this little girl, an angel, who must only have been 3 or 4 years old. A still, small voice caught my attention in the midst of the turmoil, and I was in the thick of it. All she said was "hey," and it was enough to put me in my place. When I glanced at her face, I was struck by the fact that she was the only person among millions who had one gorgeous baby blue eye and one pure white eye like the rest, as if she could see in both worlds. Behind her was a 12-foot-tall man she referred to as the King, who seemed completely uncensored with me. As I listened to this young girl say, "I know who you are," the attacks appeared to stop. "What?" I wondered, perplexed. "Your name is JWC. How did you find out?" I asked her, remembering that all communication was done mind to mind. For a little period, her tranquility provided me some consolation. "You haven't been here that long. You can still go back," she added. An emotion I'd already lost and perhaps forgotten slowly appeared. I hope. My only query was, how? "You have to feel it," she added. "It feels like you're back where you were before you came here." I knew exactly where I'd come from since I was still in what appeared to be a silhouette of my hospital gown and experienced pain in the area of my pancreas. "Go," she exclaimed passionately, as if time was ticking away. Those were her final words to me, and my little respite quickly turned into chaos as the bats and pipes descended on me again. I pushed and shoved and raced as fast as I could, fighting my way through the crowd, longing for the darkness I saw in the distance. Nobody or nothing could stop me, no matter how hard they tried. And believe me, they were giving it everything they had. As I moved closer to the border, I felt the repelling force of the darkness pushing me back. It became so powerful that I collapsed to my knees, fighting a force I couldn't see. I was pushing and crawling my way forward, while being dragged back by what seemed like 100 hands scratching and clawing over every inch of my body. With full tiredness setting in, I took one last plunge into the darkness. I closed my eyes and envisioned myself back on the hospital bed with every fiber of my existence. I opened my eyes to find myself in full darkness. It isn't working. It isn't working. My heart was pierced by laughter and screaming. I fled back a few inches into a force of darkness I'd never felt before and lay on my back, attempting to recreate and will myself back into that hospital bed. Maybe 5 seconds had elapsed before I had the guts to open them to check if I'd crossed back over. And to my absolute shock and overwhelming amazement, I found myself in the hospital, peering up through the sheet. My heart particularly kicked back up, and I sat up screaming and gasping for oxygen. When the nurses and physicians arrived, I rushed out of bed, ripping my IV as I tumbled into the medical machinery. I tried to explain what had happened to the doctors, but it was clear that it was falling on deaf ears. Over the next 2 weeks, the nurses enjoyed hearing about my experience and provided me with as much comfort as they could. As I recall being back in that horrible situation, the little girl's voice still lingers in my memory. I sometimes wonder whether I've lived a lifetime of agony, only to die and be carried to a plane constructed for even more agony. That little angel recognized my name. Why, I wonder? Is it written already? I suppose that only time will tell. Looking back at those lost souls with their haunting white eyes, all I can feel is despair. I believe they lost not only their humanity, but also their awareness, their morality. The depth of the reality I encountered was equivalent to the depth of the reality you're experiencing as you read this. Do you believe you're having a dream right now? Yes? My conviction remains the same. The light shines in the darkness, but the darkness cannot understand it. First chapter of John.